so my name's Henk Beukes. I grew up in Johannesburg. I do athletics. Yeah, we live in Cape Town now for the past 4 years or so. 3 years, and I've been married for 4 years, going on 5.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's great. Congratulations on that great life endeavor. It's a beautiful thing. It's a gift from God. I think we can appreciate that. So just as we get into, I guess, getting to know you better and your history, you said you're an athlete, right? So I just want to find out. I always see, like, with athletes, just before a match, they always have these huge headphones. Well, now they've become small, but they always have these huge headphones, and I've heard that it's actually what prepares them for, I guess, they've got their game face on, they're preparing to actually get into it. So what's on your playlist, Henk?
Oh. Yeah, so for me, not much on the athletics field. I'm not one of those athletes that's run at the moment with music, but it is hugely motivating. But what I do like to chill in when I'm gymming or training is I like Casting Crowns and Michael W. Smith and
Wow.
artists like that.
Wow, that's interesting. When you're gymming, when you literally getting your face on, you listen to slow music.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's just to get me relaxed, and because it's not high intensity, it's like slower repetitions and
Yeah.
so just to calm me down, and because my mind's racing all day, so just to slow me down a bit.
Wow. I think I've heard like one other person before that listened to slow music while they exercise. I definitely can't listen to slow music when I exercise. It's just impossible for me. I feel like I want to sleep when I listen to that. So just tell us more about your athletics achievements and your athletics history.
Yeah, so basically I got my love running from my mom. I saw her running from a small age, and then
Really?
I used to take the bicycle with her because I couldn't run yet. I was too young. But fast forward quite a few years, I started running track and field, longer distances, and then did 800 and 400, and I just started doing so much better in that, so I started training for it. And the first time I went to national championships was in high school in grade 10, and then carried on. Takes years of training, and then only after school in 2009, 2010, I got my first 2 national bronze medals in the 800 meters.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah, you just said now 800 meters. That's great. We're going to talk about that. I just actually read these memes that they come up with. So obviously, it's the Olympics that are coming up, and people are getting themselves up. And there's a meme where Usain Bolt says that he trained for 4 years to run 9 seconds. So so with your 800 meters, and what has been the best achievement for you?
Yeah, so my best achievement, so I heard this thing in this movie called Race, where the coach told the athlete, you break a record, and just the next year or a few years later someone else comes and breaks it. But he says if you get a medal that year in the championships or Olympics, whatever, no one can take that away from you. You were the best that year.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me personally, my greatest achievement was getting those bronze medals at nationals. But for my time, I ran a 148 in 2010. Yeah.
Wow.
That was my biggest achievement. I think I was ranked 8th in the country when I ran that. So, yeah, I'm really proud of that.
That's massive, man.
Yeah.
That's great. So you are an athlete, and you are a Christian as well, and you work for a Christian organization. Tell us about that. And how did it come about for you to be involved in these endeavors in your life?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. yeah, I was an athlete, and I was on a bursary at the University of Johannesburg, and yeah, I was running and I was pushing my body so hard, and I started getting injuries. And yeah, when you build your whole identity on running and winning and achieving things, and that falls away, it feels like you got nothing, and it feels like your world's falling apart.
Sure.
I was like, yo, should I even stop studying? And like, who even cares about me? Because as soon as you're not that top athlete, like, everyone that is so interested in you just kind of gets silent, and you feel so alone and isolated.
Sure.
And yeah, that's where someone came up to me one day and said, hey, would you mind if we meet like an hour a week, and so I could hear how you're doing and build into your life spiritually. And he's actually the national director for Campus Crusade now,
Wow.
Chris Beukes. And yeah, it just meant so much to me, because I was feeling at that time like, who really cares about me? Like Henk, so many, there's church groups and stuff, and no one really wants to know what you're going through and your struggles. And
Yeah.
this guy's like, can I meet with you alone once a week to discuss these kind of things? And I'm like, wow, God, did you just hear me? Was my thought. So that's the big part of the story. But then I prayed to God. I'm like, I finished studying sports science and teaching. Where do you want me next year? Which school or whatever? And just fast forward that, a friend shared with me how God used him in sport and through working with sports people and their faith. And yeah, I just really felt God's call through that, and I thought, hey, but I want to be that person on campus, working with athletes and being there for them when they really feel alone and isolated. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. And since you're actually doing that now,
Yeah.
and I want to find out for everybody out there, how has your relationship, or how has sport actually helped you in your relationship with God?
That's actually a very good question, and just thinking over that, I think it's actually phenomenal how it's helped me to understand God and my faith better. So my sport has helped me with athletics. You don't have a 1 week or a 1 month goal. It's 4 years maybe for the next Olympics, or 2 years until you finish school. So in matric you want to run a time. So
Yeah.
just having that mindset of it's not only for tomorrow, putting in the hard work. It reminds me of reading the Bible, and not every day you'll feel good doing it or you feel like doing it, but in the long run, when the opportunity comes up and you go through hard times and struggles, then you see the results of your hard work.
Wow, that is amazing, man. That is great. And I know in sports, or I've heard that you're obviously in form and out of form, and I think that's the most frustrating time when you're out of form as an athlete. So how do you overcome that time in your life where you're out of form? You're trying as hard as you can. You mentioned that there was a time in your life when you actually met the national coordinator for crew right now. Were you at that point, I guess, in your life where nothing you could possibly do was working? How do you overcome that, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and that was actually the start of me spiraling into like a pit. And just a year or two after that, I actually reached the bottom, where I had depression and struggled with burnout, where I tried to run and I felt like running, but I just couldn't perform. Nothing was working. It wasn't my training program. But yeah, how I deal with it is, I think the best way, even with depression, with my running, with injuries, is taking the best next step. So then I need to switch from focusing on 4 years to saying, what's the best thing I can do tomorrow?
Oh, wow.
Because it's so hard to see then into the future.
Mm.
Your injury won't heal in a week. You won't see improvement after your first rehab session or physio. So just the next best step is how.
Step by step.
Yeah.
I guess that's how they invented the step by step scenario or philosophy. That's great. I guess like you just take one step, you trust the Lord, take another step, trust the Lord, that, you know, by the time you look, oh my goodness, I've taken 20 steps and I didn't even realize it was 20 steps.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
And friends really helped. Friends and family, someone just to listen as well, even if the process felt like it was going nowhere, depression wasn't getting better, or even injuries, but friends and family, someone just to listen really helps so much.
Support system. Support system is crucial. It is the one reason that we are able to get out of the pit. Yeah, I guess moving very differently. In South Africa right now, we're facing probably one of the worst times that we've ever had, politically, socially, spiritually. I mean, I can go on and on and on without getting into detail, without getting much into detail what was going on. But how do you think sport, which is what you're interested in, can come in and actually help in terms of dealing with the issue of race, dealing with the issue of ethnicity, dealing with the issue of social inequality?
Yeah, I was very inspired once again by that movie called Race from Jesse Owens' life story. I think
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
And there's also a very big racial component in there, where his people from his own culture didn't want him to compete because they said you must stand up for, and he said, no, I'll go there and I'll show them what someone from my background can do.
Yeah.
And he said once that gun goes off, all politics, all things are left behind, and it doesn't matter if you I think he said if you're black or white, but it matters if you fast or slow.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
that's powerful actually.
And it just breaks away all laws, all things countries enforce on people and things. You just have that freedom for that moment to just be. So yeah, just the arena of sports deals with you see different things of abuse, you see things like that can happen in that arena, but the way sports can help is really that anyone can take part, and especially running. If you can get a pair of running shoes, some people even start barefoot, but just it gives you hope, and it can really, without any qualification or degree, you could make a difference for your future. It gives people hope, and if we can equip leaders in running, they motivate and inspire and give hope to even the masses. Where that top-down approach really, and it keeps people busy and develops them as a person, so
I'm actually thinking of 3 moments. Probably there's more. I'm thinking of the 1995 Rugby World Cup, and I'm sure you've seen the movie Invictus, right?
Yeah.
And I remember a year later in 1996 with the Africa Cup of Nations where South Africa won, and I'm thinking about I guess the most significant, I remember that we won it afterwards as well, but I'm thinking about last year, which is the most recent as a rugby nation in South Africa, just how sport got us into, literally you forget about all the other things, and you literally are having one focus in mind, is that my country should win.
Yes.
And how do you think, if we can focus on, how do you think we can use sport to make sure those moments are not few and far in between, but actually happen on a regular basis?
Wow. Well, that's that's a great question, because we see those highlights. I'm even thinking of the Soccer World Cup that was hosted in South Africa. People that don't even watch soccer joined in, and everything faded away, and they just focused on their country.
Forgot about that part. Yeah, that's true. For a month it was just a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, that's quite a thing to think about, how to increase that, and I think that the media is already doing great with coverage of sport, and there's people recording athletics, making it more accessible to everyone, and getting athletes together. So I feel it's already making an impact, but that's a great thing to think about. How do we make it more often, so it's not so far and in between? Never thought about that.
I mean, the great Nelson Mandela, it was his birthday on Sunday. He said that one of the many famous quotes he has had, he said that sport has the power to bring a nation into unity. Sport has got the power to unite a nation. So I mean, you're participating in something that is very important, that can help us as a country. Now, how do you use your passions, which is sport, to help rebuild the country of South Africa?
Well, it's my love for sport and still competing allows me to make connections with athletes, but the biggest difference is then equipping them while they're in that platform to be able to reach their own communities, to be able to make an impact. I've got such a heart for fatherlessness and things like that, and the family unit, and it starts with the next generation of fathers, where at the moment it's students, it's athletes. They will be business leaders, they will be coaches one day, and working with so many other people. So it's building into their lives while you're training with them, chatting while you're warming up, and just equipping others that will do well in sport at the same time while I'm also training. So kind of this double focus, me as an athlete, but also equipping others to also reach their peers.
Wow, that is amazing. I thank you for that. And like you said, you basically training, but you also make sure you impact others to have an impact in society. So if you were to have a position of being a president in our country for a week, especially now, what would you what implementations would you leave in place for the betterment of this country?
Well, I think definitely if sport could penetrate more communities and more services, and I'd love to see, I don't know, I just always hear these things about like the military having sports and things like that. And like I'd love to see other options for athletes to earn an income while running, and that also contributing then to the sport, and that will impact our country and maybe have more of those opportunities you spoke about. But shucks, a week, what would I be able to put in place? That's like a long-term goal. So
that means you'll have just a chance to
I think
come up with policies and then leave.
But then they'll change it so quickly. I think I'll just have 1 week of like competitions and rugby and athletics, and put effort into that, and then maybe something can run off that's lasting. People see the vision.
That can last for a long time, because then basically that's the thing. Sport can bring about unity, and if unity is your thing, then you're like, okay, how do we get united without having to talk about the word unity? Because if you think about it, sport brings unity, but it's hardly the thing you're thinking about. You're just thinking about sport. But as a benefit to that, then there's unity, because you have one goal in mind. All of you have one goal, and that goal is to win. So that's great. So Any parting words that you wanna leave with people? Just pearls of wisdom from Henk Beukes.
Well, a good summary that could maybe be good parting words for some athletes maybe listening, and whether in school or whichever level. If you're a Christian athlete, just to think of, at Athletes in Action we usually say, are you an athlete that happens to be a Christian, or are you a Christian that happens to be passionate about sports?
Wow.
So I guess that would serve well in making some people think about that.
Yeah, and what usually is the answer? I'm interested to know, because that's nice. Just like, are you an athlete that's a Christian, or a Christian that's an athlete? Like, how does it normally pan out for people if you ask them that question?
So most people have to think like, it sounds so similar, but then they realize the difference, and like, what defines you and where's your identity? Is it Henk the athlete, or wow, like, I know he loves the Lord and like that kind of thing, but wow, he's good in sports, but you know that identity. So most people, it ends up being the first one, an athlete that happens to be a Christian. So you've got that box you kind of open up on Sunday to go to church, then you put it away again and you have your week. But athlete that happens, a Christian that happens to be passionate about sports, that isn't just a box, it's their life, it's the backpack with all the bags, and running fits in there, and your work and your family fits into that. So that's just yeah.
Well, their identity has to be formed in Christ. It's not just about having an identity as a runner, but shaping your identity under Christ, and then He's the one that, I guess, lets you achieve whatever it is that you can achieve in life. Henk, it has been so good to have you. Thank you so much. And that has been RPM with Nyameka.